Hi guys, welcome back. I am sitting in the park right now. I am in Retiro. Just show you guys around. That's a lake of Retiro, and I'm just like sitting here chilling. There's nobody here because this place has already closed. I work from home today, and whenever I work from home, I just feel like I have to do something outside. After a full day of very intense work, I feel like I gotta take a walk. I would go to the gym. Sometimes I would go to the supermarket. Today I just decided to come to the park. And in the meantime, maybe I could just chat a little bit about my experience of working in Spain. I've been living in Madrid for 6 years and I've been working here for 3 years. I've been working for three different companies. Very different companies. A lot of people have, this muse about working in Spain. They would think they got unlimited vacation and work is easy and chill. People care more about their lunch and siesta than work itself. But that's not necessarily true. That's not really always the case. Well, that's not the case at all. So I'm gonna break this down in a few parts. I'm gonna talk about holiday, workload, interpersonal relationship, and payment. So I'm gonna start with the biggest lie of working in Spain. Because before I started working here, I actually thought that Europeans have a lot of holidays. Because I've heard enough people saying that Europeans don't work in summer. I don't know if that's the real case in France, but in Spain, that's not the case. Let's start with holidays. Spain's legal paid time off are 22 or 23 days. And in terms of public holidays, Spain doesn't have that many public holidays either. I think normally in Madrid, we got like 13 to 14 days of public holiday. I've also counted holidays in the US and in China, it's pretty much the same case. And the thing with Spain is that if the public holiday falls on the weekend, you don't get the extra day. You don't get to recuperar ese día. They're not gonna make it up for you. So if it falls on Sunday, then just call it your luck. You're gonna have to work on Monday as well. Besides these public holidays, you only get these 22 days as paid time off, so you can take vacation pretty much whenever you want, but it depends on companies. Some company would force you to take vacation during the Christmas season or during summer because it's a low season in their business as well. And some boss just feels like, oh, I don't want to be paying you for you to be here doing nothing. So sometimes it's obligatory, which I've been through, that you take 1 week off. And let's review the summer holiday myth. So the reason why a lot of people think Europeans do not work in summer is because it almost feels like a tradition that people will just take vacation in summer. It doesn't matter if they're taking 1 week or 2 weeks, they are taking it from their own personal paid time off. If they take 2 weeks, like 10 days in summer, then they get 10 days less in their paid time off. These days are not free days given to you. It's just a lot of people choose to take their vacation in this period of time. So of course you do have more paid time off in Spain than, let's say, in East Asian countries, but it's not significantly more than the holidays or paid time off in the US. And plus, normally in Spain, they don't have sick leave. I know that normally in China or in the US, you got 3 to 5 days of sick leave. If you don't feel well, you can take these days and just not work. In Spain, I think it's more like within the first 3 or 4 days, if you don't feel well, you can take the days, but then the company is also gonna deduct the salary of these days from your monthly salary. And if you need to take baja médica, which means that you're going to take a longer period of time, the company is not going to pay for you. The social security is going to cover that part of the salary of yours. They normally pay a certain percentage of your, maybe they pay, let's say 60% or 70% of your salary, even though you're not working. That's basically how it works. And it's getting really dark right now. I'm gonna move and keep talking about it maybe when I get back home or tomorrow. Good morning, guys. It's a windy Sunday morning. We are in Retiro. I'm trying to find a spot where I can sit down. So I was talking the other day what the holiday situation is really like in Spain. Today, let's keep talking about workload in Spain. It's really not all rainbow and sunshine. I've been working with 3 Spanish companies so far. The first one is a small private company, which is like a language school. And the second one is a very, very big Chinese company, but in their Spanish office. And currently I'm working at a really big Spanish startup. And the culture in these companies are completely different. Actually, let's start with the actual work time. So in the first company, the smallest one, the actual work time is pretty much when you clock in and clock out. So for example, my work time was from 8:30 to 5:30. And honestly, people arrive at 8:30 sharp pretty much. and they leave at 5:30 sharp. The whole world shuts down their computer at 5:30, and there are barely people that stay until 5:35. But the thing is, you can also finish your work by 5:30. There's no work that you have to finish that day that you have to work extra, which is quite different in the other two companies. So in the Chinese company, so to start with, the work culture is a little bit different than in the Spanish companies, even though half of the people work in that company are like Spanish because it's a Spanish office anyway. Especially the Chinese people working in this company, they tend to work pretty late. Like my colleagues tend to stay until 9 or 10 or even 11 at night in the office just to finish their work. Me, I think like I am the outlier in a way because I normally just leave at 6:30, which is the time when I get off work. Sometimes I stay half hour later. There are times when you feel like it's peer pressure because if everybody is working a bit extra and you're the only one leaving on time, you feel that like you feel people watching you when you are leaving, especially if you're Chinese. But this is like the hidden work culture there. But for my position, I don't really have to work overtime that much. In busy season, maybe I have to work overtime 2 to 3 times a week, or I leave work a little bit later than 6:30. When I got home, I started working again like at 10ish, and I worked for another like hour or so just so that I could finish my work. So in a way, you are expected to work a bit more in the Chinese company, even though it's in the Spanish office. And now I work in a pure Spanish company, Spanish startup. Even though it's a quite big one, it's still a startup. And you know how the startup culture is pretty much just like do everything fast as possible. They orient more towards get things done and put out a trial there instead of getting things done perfectly. So things are moving pretty fast and each of us has a lot of projects going on. Even though like not that many people work overtime, if you can finish your projects, you sort of have to work overtime because it emphasizes more here like taking ownership of your projects. The cases are a lot of people cannot, including me, like I couldn't finish all my work that's due for the day or that has to be finished. So I have to work overtime voluntarily, even though there's no peer pressure or whatever. And there's definitely a lot more pressure working there than working in the smaller company and in the Chinese company. Okay, we found a spot, and that's about workload. I think it depends a lot on the responsibilities that you have and the companies that you work in. Because if you work in a super big and very structured, mature company, it might be a bit better because I think your job responsibilities are better defined, which is quite different than working in a startup. Like it definitely takes a lot more resilience, proactivity, and ownership mindset for you to do your work well. In a way, it can be exhausting. I've never felt so tired and so nervous about a job before I work in my current company, but I mean, I do like the flexibility. So in my first and second company, I have to go to office every single day of the week, which is actually a lot, especially like the second company is a bit far. I had to drive to work every day, and there was just like a lot of traffic in the morning. So when I got there, I was already pretty tired. Oh my god, such a small bird, it's so cute. There's such a small one here. Hello. Oh. Yeah, so what I like about this company is that I get to work from home 3 to 4 days in a week. It depends on the week. So I don't really have to commute, and that really levels up the happiness of working the place. So even though the work itself isn't easy or it can be chaotic, at least I got the flexibility of working from home. So I think that is actually one of the reasons why I like working where I work. Rambling a lot about the workload, but yeah. And in terms of payment, apparently, as you can see, the more ownership and responsibilities that you have, the higher the payment is. So my salary was the lowest in the first job, not only because it was my first job, but also because your responsibilities are quite limited. You don't have to worry about that many things. Really, the more you have to worry about work, the more payment you get. That's just like true, but I mean, it can be different in some other big companies. And in terms of like bonus and perks, they're just like none in the first company. So in the second company, the Chinese one, there is some bonus, but it also depends on department. So the perks that's normally offered in Spanish companies are you got a restaurant card. So in the Chinese company, it's more like restaurant card. They give you, I got like 200 euro extra in another card, which is the restaurant card, but you can only use it at certain restaurants. But I would say, I think for 85% of the restaurants here, I could use a card. But keep in mind, that's like 200 euro more net. We don't pay tax for that. So that's definitely a plus, because you gotta know for 200 euro more net salary, it means like a lot more in your gross salary. So, and for my current company, they offer Kobe card, which is quite popular in Spain as well. But I don't like Kobe card as much as restaurant card, because Kobe card basically they tell you that you save some tax by using that card. But at the end of the day, the money that you could use for that Kobe card is actually part of the flexible salary. So let's say if your salary is 2,000 euro per month, maybe 200 of it is flexible, which means that you can spend it the month before that, which is in the Kobe card. And the more you spend in that Kobe card, the less tax you pay, because the part that you spend with Kobe card, you don't pay tax. But honestly, if you have like a 200 or 300, even 400 top limit for Kobe card, you save, I don't know, definitely below 100 euro. Even if you spend all that, it's not going to save you more than 100 euro in tax. So honestly, it's not as good as restaurant card. And for perks, you also got like gym pass, which I have in my current company. I don't have that in neither of the previous two companies. And what else? Like private health insurance, I got in my current company. I don't have those in the previous two. These are pretty much it. These are the most common ones that's offered in a Spanish company. If you are looking for a job in Spain, definitely keep that in mind. And the last topic, which is a quite big one, is about the sense of belonging working in Spain, especially for foreigners that want to work here. So for the three companies I've worked for, I definitely feel more included in my first and second job. So in the first job, I think it's mainly because it's a smaller company and I get to be friends with everybody in a way. And I got my friend who I had lunch with, who I took my work with after lunch, and who I just share things from time to time. And the second company, which is a Chinese one, I mean, it's definitely a lot easier to have a connection with Chinese colleagues. And even for the Spanish people that work in a Chinese company, it's also easier to make a connection with them. I mean, they work in a Chinese company anyway. They understand Chinese culture and they probably care a bit more about Chinese culture. And the current company, there were like 10 people or so on my team. They are either from Spain or native Spanish speaker, or they're from, like, for example, Italy. So they either share the same language or similar culture. So for me, I'm like a foreigner whose first language is in Spanish. Not even my second language is Spanish. I did not grow up in a Spanish culture. For me, it's really hard to get into that inner circle of my colleagues. Like, even though I speak Spanish, for a lot of small talk, like coffee talks and stuff, it's more than language. You have to be deeply rooted in that culture. But I am not, because I did not grow up in that culture. It's not something that I can choose. It's almost like if somebody talks about like a show that they all watch when they were little, or this movie, they all know what the Spanish name is. Like, I only know Fast and Furious. I don't even know what's the Spanish name for Fast and Furious. Or even if when they talk about American actors or whatever, they pronounce it in a Spanish way, which also takes me a while to understand what they are talking about. So even though my colleagues are really nice people, I don't feel that sense of belonging. I always feel like an outsider because the culture is just like completely different. A lot of times I had to deal with, like when people were having small talks, I don't want to ask questions all the time. The Spanish girl on my team is very helpful. Like, she explains things to me from time to time, but I cannot expect her to explain to me everything. I think my Spanish is okay if it's one-on-one conversation, but for me to jump in a conversation when a group of native speakers are talking, it takes a lot for me to chip in. I don't talk as fast, and in a way I feel like, I don't want to waste the time of other people while I conjugate some of the verbs. It's just personally, I feel this pressure when I have to jump in a conversation. I mean, it's just something that you have to prepare yourself for if you want to work in Spain, because this might happen to you as well. On a daily basis about work and all that, I think it's fine. But honestly, if you are talking about that sense of belonging, it's not that easy. Yeah, that's sadly the case. So I think I touched upon a few topics that I think are the most important for you to know if you want to know what it is actually like working in Spain. But let me know if you have other questions. I'm gonna go visit my friends. It's such a lovely day. I'll see you guys around. Bye.